Hi, I'm Patrick, and this is the Mach-E vlog. Today we have some more exciting news in the EV charging world, and we are going to jump right into it, so let's go. Today is Wednesday, July 26, 2023, and the reason I say that is things are changing so fast. If you're watching this video next week, this may be old news or something else may have changed since then, but this is for today as of July 26. And what happened was 7 different auto manufacturers decided to get together. They announced that they are forming a joint venture to create a new charging network. So let's get into the details. Let's get right into the manufacturers that made this announcement. It's from the BMW Group, which of course includes BMW and Mini, General Motors, Honda, Kia, Mercedes-Benz Group, and Stellantis. So 7 of the biggest auto manufacturers. I think it's interesting that it's German, Japanese, Korean, and US manufacturers that are like included in this announcement. Neat to see that they're all working together. They mentioned that their goal is to deploy 30,000 DC fast charging points with this joint venture, and they will be focusing on urban areas and along highways to make road trips easier for EV owners. The first question that I had when I saw this news was, is it going to be CCS or is it going to be NACS? I automatically assumed that because of who was in this announcement, it may be CCS only, but they did say they will support CCS and NACS, and at each location they want to have multiple chargers as well. So we don't know, are they going to support like some stalls have CCS, some have NACS, or if it's going to be one CCS port, one NACS port on the same charger. Still too early to know, and I bet it's even too early for the actual companies to really have made that type of decision. They also mentioned that their goal is to have this be powered by renewable energy. This is probably not going to be like, giant solar panels on top of each charging station. It's very hard to get enough solar from just like a localized site to power a DC fast charger, especially if it's very popular and busy. More than likely what they'll do is they will either build their own solar farms or other renewable energy, hydro or whatever, and then use that to power these stations. They'll probably do some type of purchasing of energy offsets. Who knows what they're going to do, but it's a very good goal. A lot of other people have stated these type of goals as well, including Tesla and Electrify America and EVgo. I believe it's EVgo. If you go to some of their stations, it'll say like 100% powered by renewable energy, maybe all of their stations. But in any case, early days, but very good goal to see. They also indicated that there will be amenities on site or nearby. And this is pretty much standard language that people will talk about when they're building a new location for charging stations or new locations. That could mean that it's a lounge that they're building with some amenities like a bathroom and windshield wiper cleaning stuff, or it could just mean it's in the parking lot of a gas station or a Walmart or a hotel or something like that. Very early days, so we don't really know the details, but at least they're talking about those considerations. One of the biggest complaints that we have as EV owners is sometimes the locations aren't in the best spots for having access to a bathroom or even simple stuff like things to clean your windshield. Hopefully that's being considered. And of course, as somebody that's lives with one with a disability, hopefully they're also considering accessibility. There's a lot of charging stations right now where the bollards or the curb prevent access to somebody that's in a wheelchair. And as EVs get more popular and more common, this is going to be a more and more, big need that we need to consider for charging stations. So hopefully they're considering that as well. There's going to be a lot of regulatory approval, contractual agreements that need to be ironed out. They say they plan to have this joint venture up by the end of 2023. We'll see if that takes place or not. I can only imagine the difficulties in dealing with 7 different companies, and the scale of these companies could be hard to get over that. And then regulatory approval here in the US that they will have to get done. And of course, their first deployment of stations, they're saying, is 2024. It's a great target. It's also a very big target because it could be January, it could be December. hopefully it's early on they get this started, deployed very quickly, because we need more charging as soon as we can. And going on that note, according to the DOE, Department of Energy, currently there are 32,000 DC fast chargers in the US, being utilized by about 2.3 million electric vehicles currently on the road. And that's a ratio of about 72 electric vehicles per charger. And if you extrapolate out where you see the EV growth going, we'll probably have about 30 million plus EVs on the road by 2030, which would mean we need approximately 182,000 DC fast chargers. So right now there's 32,000. This joint venture is proposing adding another 30,000. So that's 62,000. Of course, the current networks are also growing as well. So, but we still have a very long way to go to hit 182,000 by the year 2030. A lot of people are going to have to be involved, and the funding from the federal government is going to also help, but also it's just down to, we need companies to get on the ball and get this stuff rolled out. In the press release, they had quotes from several of the CEOs of the different companies that are involved in this. I did want to highlight a couple of statements that I took interest in. One is from GM CEO Mary Barra. The last part is what I sort of wanted to focus on. The better experience people have, the faster EV adoption will grow. And hopefully all companies are realizing this, but charging has been a pain point for non-Tesla EV drivers for a while. And some of the recent agreements, like with Ford and GM signing agreements with Tesla to use the supercharger network, will hopefully eliminate some of those pain points, and just creating more charging networks. As long as they include some really good reliability and good locations, this will go a long way. But hopefully this is a good indication that GM really sees that charging is something that they have to consider, just beyond creating a product for customers to buy. The Hyundai CEO, Jaehoon Chang, probably didn't say that name correctly. They also talk about why they are participating. But the point that I wanted to get in here was, they mentioned that Hyundai's expertise in electrification will help redefine the charging landscape, and we look forward to working with our other shareholders as we create this expansive high-powered charging network. And to me, that sort of indicates that they're going to use some of the expertise that all of these companies have. They're all going to bring something different to the table, and maybe they will, who knows, build some of their own chargers. Hyundai has a big diverse portfolio of what they do beyond just making cars. So maybe that'll be something that they contribute. It's going to be a huge undertaking getting 7 companies to work together, but hopefully, because they have a lot of different expertise across multiple continents that they can bring to this effort here in the US, hopefully this will all work out in the best. So that's really it for the news portion of it. But I think what I wanted to do, and the reason why we're doing this video, is wanted to sort of add our 2 cents on what does it mean for various stakeholders in this process. And first of all, we wanted to mention GM and Mercedes. And that's because GM and Mercedes both just recently announced agreements with Tesla to start using the NACS standard. So it was sort of surprising when I saw that there were 7 manufacturers going to form a joint venture. I assumed it wasn't any of those that had signed an agreement with Tesla, but it's interesting to see that GM and Mercedes are on this list as well. I'm sort of curious, has this project been going on for a while, and then GM and Mercedes sort of took a different path recently that might change their investment in this? I don't think so. I think GM and Mercedes are probably sort of looking at don't put all your eggs in one basket. Before, they were in the public CCS network that they really didn't have any control over. Then they sort of diversified a little bit and said, okay, we're going to also have access to the Tesla network. So we're not in one basket anymore. But now it's even spreading it out even more. So they'll still have Electrify America and EVgo and those type of things. And GM actually works with EVgo quite extensively already, and has announced a venture with them to deploy at Flying J truck stops. But diversifying even more is probably better in their mind, so that like they have the regular network or the old CCS network, they have the Tesla network, and now they're going to have this joint venture one as well, so that people will have a lot of options for charging their vehicles, and they're not like betting on any one technology or one company. Hyundai and Kia are also very interesting, and the reason is like they have not signed a deal with Tesla, but I've heard rumors that they are in negotiations and they're trying to figure out a way to actually get that agreement to work, because they have some technology hurdles to get over to make it work seamlessly like the other manufacturers that are already signed agreements. And the reason for that is they have 800 volt architectures in their cars that don't work quite the same with a version 3 Tesla supercharger. They're limited to, I believe, under 50 kilowatts when charging on those version 3 superchargers. And it's because of the way they use like a step-up booster to charge their cars at like Electrify America doesn't work with a Tesla supercharger. Apparently there's ways that Tesla can reconfigure their superchargers, and more than likely their version 4 superchargers will be good to go. So it looks like there's ways to get around that, but this is also like a good way to sort of hedge that bet. They'll have like, the current CCS network, and then also they're helping to build their own. And that might be going back to Hyundai talking about using their expertise. If they use their expertise, they can also use their input to say like, you need to make sure any of the chargers we're deploying support 800 volt architecture cars. So interesting to see them. The other partners that are in there, like Honda, Stellantis, they really don't have like a huge play right now in the EV world. They don't have like a ton of EVs being shipped, but it's interesting that they are now getting ahead of the game to sign up to participate in deploying all of these chargers. And I think it's a very positive step for them, because even though it's taking them a while to get their EVs deployed, hopefully this means that like when they do start shipping cars in 2024, that their customers will, have, access to good charging from the get-go. I still think that they probably also need to, get on board and support the NACS standard so that their customers can charge at Tesla superchargers, because then they have open access to everything that's out there versus, one subset or the other. Been an advocate all along, not necessarily for the Tesla standard. I just wanted there to be one standard. My main goal for me is that EV owners should have access to anything that puts out juice. They should have access to it. So the other partners, it's interesting to see what they're doing with this, but hopefully, that doesn't preclude them from also signing a deal with Tesla. I wanted to talk quickly about Tesla. They're not mentioned in the press release other than the fact that they're going to be supporting NACS. And that's the part that's really interesting, because as we start seeing Electrify America and this charging network and EVgo and others start to support NACS, it just means competition for Tesla. And right now, Tesla really doesn't have competition in regards to the supercharger network. And part of that is because their reliability and whatnot is just up there. But it's also most Teslas can't charge on these other networks. Some can't charge at all. Some can charge if people buy an adapter. So it's like a limited subset of people that have a Tesla and have access to other charging networks. So when you get to an area, you got to charge at the Tesla supercharger, no matter the cost, whatever it is. This provides more options for Tesla owners, which I think is great. And it may also provide some pricing competition. And I don't think, by any means like Tesla or Electrify America or anybody like that has been like price gouging or anything. But anytime that you have competition, it could mean some lower price incentives for whoever can provide that. So again, nobody's necessarily price gouging, but having competition will probably be good for Tesla owners. And, as far as Tesla, the company goes, they are deploying stuff so fast, I don't think it's necessarily going to hurt them at all. And in some ways, I think it could help them because, they won't be the sole provider of like a DC fast charging like in North Dakota and Wyoming. Some of these areas where the CCS network has been very lacking. It's still, for us as an EV driver to see like if we pull off at this stop, just as like if there's a gas station on every corner, it'd be nice to see like multiple charging stations on every corner so that we can pick and choose which one we want to go to. And some of that is just being silly, because it's sort of like, I remember, as a kid, we would stop and we'd pick the gas station as long as it was in reasonable price of like the other one on the corner. But it's like, well, if we wanted McDonald's, we're going to pick this gas station because it's right next door. And then the next day, well, we want to go to Kentucky Fried Chicken, so we're going to pick that gas station because it's right there. So sort of the same thing. If I pull off to an exit and there's a Electrify America on one corner and a supercharger on the other corner, but this one has, a steakhouse that I want to stop and eat at, I might pick that charger to charge at just because it's like has better amenities than the one across the street. And now for some of the ones I think are even more intriguing, and part of it is because we have a Ford. So this one is of particular interest to me, but this is like Ford, Volvo, Polestar, and Rivian, the companies that have CCS, but they've signed agreements with Tesla already to give us access to the Tesla supercharging network starting next year, and then including the NACS port on their cars starting in 2025. It's interesting to me because when like Ford made the announcement, I was like, wow, this is sort of like a huge advantage as a Ford EV owner or purchaser, because you have access to the current CCS network, all of it, and you have access to a lot of the Tesla supercharger network, their version 3s and above. So it was like, wow, you have access to both of these. Now, they've said that this joint venture, that the chargers will be open to everybody. They're not going to limit it to just their cars. So that's really great news. But going back to pricing, I do wonder if, for example, to charge at Electrify America, they have like a membership rate. And if you pay the membership rate, you get a discount. And then if you own a Tesla, you're going to get the Tesla rate for charging at a supercharger. But if you're a non-Tesla owner, you'll probably have to pay a membership to get that same discounted rate. Well, if this joint venture does the same thing, and it's like, well, if you have a BMW or Stellantis or Mercedes, then you get the discounted rate. But if you have a Ford or Rivian or Volvo or Polestar, you have to pay a membership fee to get the discounted rate. It could be now all of a sudden a little bit of a disadvantage because Ford doesn't have, connections to really any of these networks. So it's like, if I'm going on a road trip and I want discounted rates at all these different charging networks, does it mean I'm going to have all these different memberships to get that discounted rate? Or will I pay just a little bit more at all of these networks? So when it was first announced, thought it was a huge advantage that Ford was going to have access. But now that we're getting a little bit more into this, it's like, does this mean we'll have access, but it's going to cost us a little bit more compared to like a BMW that's going to have access to this other network, or Teslas that have the access to the supercharger network. So very interesting to consider. Hopefully, maybe somebody will come up with like a joint membership so that you can pay like one fee or whatever, or just get rid of memberships completely, because we don't have memberships to get, gas. We do get discounted rates, I guess. So it's sort of the same, but I don't want it. I just want to get the cheapest rate that I can. And finally, let's finish up talking about some of the companies that aren't mentioned in this joint venture and don't have agreements with Tesla to get access to the Tesla supercharger network. First of all, let's start with Toyota. They are a huge company, the world's biggest manufacturer, but they don't have really any compelling EVs to speak of. They have like the Toyota MX-30, horrible EV. Sorry if you have one, if you're like the one of 10 people that actually bought one of those, but it's not a compelling EV. Toyota keeps talking about hydrogen power. It's just not going to happen here in the US because the infrastructure is not going to be there. They talk about, down the road, they have some new battery technology that will enable a lot longer range. Again, it's like talking about stuff down the road. And now it's like, it doesn't seem like they're preparing for the charging of whatever they do come out with. So they're not going to have access to the Tesla supercharger network. They didn't get in on this joint venture. I think they need to do something. They need to get EVs out there on the road. They need to get some EV designs out there in production. Stop talking about, in several years we're going to have new technology. Get some stuff out there now, and you need to prepare to have a charging infrastructure that's going to support that, whether it's access to the Tesla supercharger network, or you need to get ahead of the game and, deploy your own network, or, join up with the joint venture, something like that. And of course, the other is VW. VW, of course, owns Electrify America. Electrify America has said that they will support the NACS standard, which I was super surprised that they were going to do that. But then I was like, okay, as soon as that was announced, I was like, is VW Group going to follow on? And of course, VW includes Audi and Porsche as well. So it's very interesting that they are now being the holdout, and they actually do have a lot of compelling EVs. And if you're looking at buying one of those vehicles right now, some of my favorite EVs, the Taycan and the RS e-tron GT, love those vehicles if I could afford one. But it makes me doubt the charging infrastructure, that they are going to not have access to the Tesla supercharger network, which is one of the biggest deals. Are they going to stick with CCS when it looks like the industry is transitioning to NACS? And even if they, there's a lot of CCS chargers that are still out there, are they going to be like the odd man out that doesn't have discounted charging on any of these networks? I was worried a little bit about Ford and the Rivian, those types, but I'm even more concerned about what's going to happen, as EV owners for the VW Group cars. They're not going to necessarily have the new NACS connector. They're not going to have access to the Tesla supercharger network. They're not getting in on deploying stations. So will they have limited options in the future? Of course, again, as I was saying at the beginning at this video, things are changing. Things are changing very quickly. Just in the past couple of months, we've seen it go from, you had the Tesla supercharger network, and then you had the CCS network. Nobody was really expecting this stuff to change so quickly, but now we've had multiple manufacturers sign up with Tesla. We've had this joint venture announced, and I'm sure within the next couple of months, we'll have some more big announcements, and we'll update those here. We'll make new videos, so make sure you subscribe. We'll try to jump in and record these as quickly as possible and get them out and give you our 2 cents. If you have any questions for us, drop them in the comments below. We will try to find out the answers via talking to people that we know in the industry, or just doing our own research, but we can do that all for you. But thank you so much for watching. Let us know what you think about quick news videos like this. Is this the type of stuff that you want to see more of? Thank you to our patrons. As always, those are the ones that are supporting us each month. If you want to become a patron, check out the link in the description. You can join up at the $2, $4, or $6 level per month. Very appreciative to our current Patreon members at the Whisper, Engaged, and Unbridled. So thank you for everybody, for all of your support for the past couple of years. And I got to wrap this up quickly so I can go edit it. So I'll just say, whatever you drive and however you charge it, wherever you charge it, whatever network it is, enjoy the ride. Bye.